Jonathan Hayes checked his reflection in the cafe window for the third time, adjusting the crisp cuff of his white shirt and straightening his navy tie. The faint hum of morning traffic outside clashed with the muted jazz playing over the cafe speakers, a soundtrack that usually calmed him but today only amplified his anxiety. His friends had promised him that this blind date would be fun and casual, a harmless step into the social world beyond spreadsheets and board meetings. But as he sat there alone, he felt like an actor who had forgotten his lines. He drummed his fingers against the polished oak table, his mind cycling through awkward conversation starters. Should he talk about work? No, that would be boring. Hobbies? He barely had any that didn't involve staring at screens or scheduling meetings. He sighed and sipped his cappuccino, which was too hot and too bitter, but at least it gave him something to do. Across the room, a barista called out orders with practiced cheerfulness, handing out latte after latte to couples, friends, and lone students immersed in books. Jonathan watched them all, feeling a strange mixture of envy and resignation. Couples laughed easily, sharing private jokes. Students scribbled notes with laser focus. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they belonged in the world, except him. He glanced at the door again, willing his date to arrive, but the clock ticked stubbornly forward. With each passing minute, the cafe's cozy warmth began to feel stifling, the soft jazz now grating in his ears. He leaned back in his chair, trying to appear calm, but the tight knot in his stomach betrayed him. A quick glance at his phone showed no messages, no last-minute texts explaining a delay. He was, officially, alone. Jonathan's thoughts wandered to the absurdity of his life. CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, respected by colleagues, feared by competitors, and yet here he was, sitting in a small cafe, wondering how to make small talk without sounding robotic. He let out a dry chuckle, thinking that maybe, just maybe, this blind date disaster would be the most human thing he'd experienced in months. Just as he opened his laptop, resigning himself to a quiet hour of emails and solitude, a small commotion by his chair caught his eye. Two tiny figures, bouncing with energy, appeared at his side. "Excuse me, mister," a voice piped up, soft but insistent. He looked down and saw two little girls, standing side by side, like identical bookmarks in the bustling cafe. They were dressed in matching yellow dresses, their hair tied in tight braids, each carrying a small stuffed animal that peeked from their arms. Jonathan blinked, unsure if he should speak or simply retreat into his screen. Before he could even respond, the girls made a bold move. With a giggle that sounded like a tiny bell, they climbed onto the chair opposite him. One plopped down, legs swinging, while the other leaned forward, eyes wide. "Are you a superhero?" one asked, tilting her head. Jonathan froze. I'm just a CEO," he said slowly, hoping the title would carry some authority. "CEO? What's that?" the other twin demanded, squinting at him as if the very fabric of his suit might contain clues. "It means I run a company," Jonathan said carefully. "Lots of people work for me." The twins exchanged a knowing look, as though he had confessed to some secret identity. Then both burst into laughter. "So you boss people around all day? That sounds boring." Jonathan laughed too, more genuinely than he had in weeks. "Sometimes it is," he admitted. "Then you need fun," one of the twins declared, grabbing a sugar packet and pretending it was a magic wand. "We can help." Within seconds, the chair became a tiny stage. One twin began directing Jonathan in a pretend quest to save the stuffed animals from imaginary villains. The other carefully reorganized his coffee cup, stirring it with exaggerated precision before declaring it too hot for humans, only wizards. Strangers in the cafe stopped to stare, some amused, some bewildered. Jonathan, normally commanding in boardrooms, found himself negotiating with 6-year-old consultants, laughing at their rules, and even following their unicorn-saving instructions. By the time a barista brought over his second cappuccino, Jonathan was covered in sprinkles from a nearby pastry, his hair slightly mussed, and his laughter echoing through the cafe. For the first time that morning, he forgot about work, spreadsheets, and awkward small talk. The twins, satisfied with their handiwork, sat back, arms crossed, and nodded like tiny judges approving a performance. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, shaking his head with a smile. Whoever had set up this blind date might have intended to pair him with another adult, but these two little girls had given him something far better. Chaos, laughter, and the sudden, unexpected joy of living in the moment. Jonathan was halfway through rescuing a stuffed bunny from an imaginary dragon when the cafe door jingled behind him. He looked up and froze. Standing there was his blind date, Olivia, a vision of calm elegance in a soft green dress, her smile polite but slightly wary. Her eyes quickly scanned the cafe, landing on him, then on the chaos surrounding his table. Sprinkles dotted the tabletop, a sugar packet was tucked under a coffee cup like a secret weapon, and two little girls were perched in the chair across from him, giggling like tiny hurricanes. Hi, Jonathan said, waving awkwardly. Meet my, he trailed off, gesturing helplessly at the twins. One of the girls piped up instantly. We're the fun helpers. You can sit over there, she said, pointing at an empty chair beside them. Daddy's CEO needs us to show him how to have a good time. Olivia blinked. Fun helpers, she repeated, trying not to laugh, though a smile was already forming. Yes, Jonathan admitted sheepishly, I'm usually in charge of serious things. They sort of took over. The twins clapped their hands and declared the official fun inspection complete. Jonathan's laptop was shoved aside, coffee had been stirred into a minor disaster of whipped cream and cinnamon, and sprinkles sparkled like confetti. Olivia approached cautiously but laughed as she crouched to greet the girls. Well, I guess you two are in charge today, she said, shaking hands with each. The twins nodded solemnly, satisfied with the acknowledgement. Jonathan felt a strange relief. Somehow, this absurd, chaotic moment was breaking the ice better than any carefully rehearsed conversation could. I swear, they're normally polite, he said, though he doubted Olivia would believe it. Oh, I believe it, Olivia replied, still smiling. I've just never seen anyone run a boardroom and a unicorn rescue mission at the same time. The girls cheered, declaring Jonathan a super CEO, and assigning Olivia the role of unicorn assistant. The four of them spent the next few minutes orchestrating an imaginary rescue mission, while the cafe patrons looked on, some with amusement, others with bewilderment. By the time the twins were finally dragged away by their mother, Jonathan and Olivia were sitting closer, sharing laughter and easy conversation. The morning had started as a potentially disastrous blind date, but the chaos of two little girls had turned it into a story neither of them would ever forget. And Jonathan realized something quietly thrilling. Maybe blind dates weren't so bad after all, especially when life decided to make them unexpectedly magical. The twins' mother appeared at the edge of the cafe, calling them with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. Time to go, girls. The little girls reluctantly hopped off the chair, giving Jonathan a final, conspiratorial glance. Remember, one whispered, tugging at his sleeve, fun is very important. Don't forget it, Mr. CEO. Yeah, the other added, and always save unicorns. Jonathan laughed, ruffling their hair as their mother led them away. For a moment, the cafe felt unusually quiet, the kind of calm that comes after a storm of laughter and chaos. He glanced at Olivia, who was watching him with a mixture of amusement and genuine curiosity. Well, she said, finally settling into the chair across from him, I guess this is one way to break the ice. Jonathan grinned, feeling a strange lightness he hadn't experienced in months. I think they did more than break it, they practically demolished it. Olivia laughed, and for the first time, Jonathan felt like he could truly relax. Conversation flowed naturally now, no awkward pauses, no rehearsed lines, just laughter, shared stories, and small jokes about sprinkles, sugar packets, and imaginary dragons. Somehow, the unexpected chaos had created a bridge between two adults who were otherwise strangers, making them feel instantly at ease. As they sipped their now cold cappuccinos, Jonathan realized he hadn't checked his phone once, hadn't thought about the office, and hadn't worried about impressing anyone. For the first time in weeks, he was fully present, fully alive in the simple joy of the moment. Do you think, Olivia asked, a mischievous glint in her eye, you'd survive another visit from your little fun inspectors? Jonathan chuckled. I think I'd welcome it. They've got excellent taste in chaos. The two shared a warm smile, and for Jonathan, that smile felt like more than just polite conversation, it felt like possibility. Possibility for connection, for laughter, for life beyond spreadsheets and boardrooms. As they finally left the cafe together, Jonathan glanced back at the empty chair where the twins had been, remembering their final words. He realized that in a world often defined by control and order, sometimes the best lessons come from the smallest, most unexpected teachers. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he smiled at the thought that maybe, just maybe, blind dates weren't disasters at all. They were opportunities for adventure, laughter, and, occasionally, a little magic.